This session will cover tax reporting using PROMIS version 6. First question is, who gets a 1099? All owners, active and inactive, who have had more than $600 worth of taxable income in the tax year and have the Send 1099 check box marked will get a 1099. The reported taxable income for owners is the net of all transactions for the year that have an account type of taxable income. For vendors, the amounts are determined by the net of all checks written during the year for any vendor with Send 1099 checkbox marked. In 2017, the IRS made changes to the reporting system, requiring that the vendor tax reporting be January 31st instead of at the same time as the owners. They changed this cycle, so things have to be changed in the way that the 1099s are created and submitted. This session is going to cover how to comply using version 6. If you're still using version 6, we recommend that you upgrade to version 12. It has many new features and accommodates doing the 1099s per the requirements. Even exporting to version 12 to only do the 1099s is a good choice. However, what's not different about version 12 is the accounting. The DOS version that some are still using, version 6 which you and others are using, and version 12 all have the solid accounting backbone. So while we would prefer you to being on version 12 from a support viewpoint, the choice of what system you use is yours. So first we're going to go to Mailings, Tax Reporting, and the screen that comes up offers a number of different choices. On the right hand side, you've got 3 radio buttons. One of them says don't change the existing 1099 information, and that's used after you've compiled it and you want to go back in and make some more changes, look at it, work with it, whatever. Calculate the 1099 amounts only is used when you've made the corrections to anything that need to be changed, and then you want to recalculate the numbers because you made some changes, say, to the vendors. And then there's calculate all 1099 information, which is what you do first. On the left-hand side, you've got the minimums. These are the minimums the IRS requires for reporting purposes: $600 for owners and vendors, $10 for interest for tenants. So the first thing that you do is for a given year, you calculate all 1099 information. Once you calculate it, the next time you come in, it's going to say don't change, so that you don't inadvertently click the button to compile and you end up having to redo fixes over again. When you click compile, the first thing you want to do is click on the not reportable due to error tab, and all of these are error. I introduced errors into the typical errors into this particular database so you could see how to go about fixing them and what they are. So if we take one of the owners, the error field down here tells you what the problem is. It says the filer address is truncated. The filer is you, and the filer address is in the company profile. So the first thing to do is to close out and go over to Setup Company and look at the address. The address here, this is the mailing address. The most common error is to have the company name in this first field. The IRS only allows 40 characters for the sum of these two fields. So what you have to do is you have to take stuff out that's not necessary. In this case, we'll take out the second line. You can have things on the first and second line. The only requirement is that the total doesn't exceed 40 characters. And while we're here, we might as well look and verify the taxpayer ID is correct, the taxpayer name is correct, and the taxpayer phone number is correct. If the taxpayer name up here is correct, then you do not have to put it down here in the bottom part. We'll go ahead and save this. Now we'll go back into Mailings, 1099 Tax Reporting. We're going to calculate all 1099 information and compile. Now when we look at not reportable due to error, we've got one. When we look at that, we see that the taxpayer address is truncated. Here's the taxpayer address, same thing. This field here can't be more than 40 characters. It's the sum of the two address lines in the owner's profile. Normally what you would do is look in the owner's profile to see what it is and see how you can cut down on the length so it gets to be below 40 characters. Generally it means that you have to abbreviate things like street, ST, APO boxes, things like that, names of things. You make them small and abbreviated so that they fit in 40 characters. In this particular case, in order to fix it then, you say edit the 1099, override what was compiled. You then fix what was over here. So we're going to fix this so that it's less than 40 characters. And then you say, this is no longer an error because I fixed it. And then you go ahead and save it. And notice now you don't have anything reportable due to errors. The next step then is to do a test print. So we'll go ahead and say we want to print laser 1099s. These are all the reportable ones. When you do the test print, you want to print at least 2 pages. There are 2 1099s per page. So you want to mark either 4 or 5 or 6 of them. And we'll do all of the ones we'll do will be the owners. So we'll edit this one and say, first of all, we'll say mark all of them to not print. And then you go in and say, you'll unmark the ones that you want to print. So unmark cheek, 2, 3, and the 4th one. So then we go ahead and print them, print laser 1099s, print them on plain paper, hold it up to the real form that you have, and verify that the information is in the boxes in the proper position. If it's not in the proper position, then over in setup, you can modify the margin and move everything up or down. The reason is all printers don't have the same registration points. Ones we have here in our office, there are 4 of them, and 2 of them are different where they have to be modified a little bit. So you may have to do that in your case. All right. Then in order to print, you just click on print. When you print the owner's 1099, copy B, you have your choice of printing only the last 4 digits of the Social Security number because you're mailing them to the owners, and it's not a good idea to have the full Social Security number available on something that gets mailed. So that's your choice. However, you can say, I only want to print the last 4 digits. So then when you print, it's going to say it printed 4 1099s, and you check it out, make sure that everything works okay. And assuming it does, then you can say mark all for printing. And now there are no reportable due to error, and there are only the reportable ones. So prior to January the 31st, what you need to do is to print copy B for all the owners, tenants, and vendors. So if you were starting over, i.e. you were getting ready to do it after you fixed all these things, you would say, do not change anything in the 1099 information. You compile, and then you say, I want to print the laser 1099s. You put copy B into the printer, might mark the thing that says don't print anything but the last 4 characters. Then you go ahead and print those 1099s. It says 8 of them were printed, and you say OK. The next step then, it said it's going to do the 1099 forms for the vendors, and you go ahead and print those. And 3 of those need to be printed. So you go ahead and print those. If there are tenants, that would come up next. Then what you do is you take those and you mail them off to the owners, tenants, and vendors, all before January 31st. Right. The next step then is prior to January 31st, you have to submit the vendor copies to the IRS, and whether you do them electronically or whether you do them printed, we'll go through both ways. So in order to do that, only the vendors, what you do is you go to mailings, tax reporting. In the minimum for the owners, you put $1 million. in the minimum for the tenants, you put $1 million. Now, what that's going to do is when we calculate the 1099 information, it's going to mark them as skipped because nobody has more than $1 million of taxable income. And the only ones that will be available to work with will be the vendors because they're at the normal $600. So you say compile. You want to see the reportable ones. In this case, you say calculate 1099 accounts only. Click on that button. It's not going to undo the changes you made relative to the tax filer error and the owner's address error. So you mark that button, you click compile, and when you get on that screen, you can see the reportable ones. The only ones that are being reported are the vendor payments. You can then either print the 1099s or you can create the electronic file. To create the electronic file, you click OK to the license agreement. Verify that the information on the screen is correct. These are the numbers that you get from the IRS, the tax transmitter control number and the name control. Make sure all of these are the way they should be, and then when you click compile, it's going to create a file, 3 1099 records in the file, and this is the location that they're at. You click on OK, it opens that location, and then what you want to do is you want to rename it, and to rename it, you right-click, rename, and these are for vendors, so you might say vendors for 2016, whatever the year is. And then you go ahead and save that. If you want to put this somewhere else in a particular place so that you can then send it to the IRS, you can send it from this location or you can go save it somewhere else. In any case, we're done with the vendors now. We've submitted them. The next step then is prior to February 28th, if you're going to mail copy A to the IRS for the owners, what you do is prior to February 28th, you come into mailings, tax reporting, and in tax reporting you then, since you want to do the owners, you say the vendors minimum is $1 million. And you calculate the 1099 amounts only. Compile. There's our list of owners. There are no not reportable due to error, so we can go ahead and either print those, which is what we're doing by February 28th, so we would print the laser 1099s and send them off to the IRS. The next step then is to do the owners and tenants for the electronic, and you have until the end of March to do that. So prior to the end of March, you would come back into the mailings, tax reporting, calculate all 1099 amounts only. The minimum for the vendors, $1 million. Compile. You then have these ready to create the electronic filing for output file. Click on it, say OK to the license, verify we had verified the information, compile. It creates 8 records and there's the location of it. You open it up, you rename this one so it says IRS tax owners for the particular year. And then you go ahead and send that off to the IRS and you're done. All right, that covers the tax reporting method of it. What you may want to do is early in the month of January, do the 1099s, print them out, send them to the owners, tenants, and vendors early in the month. And then then notify the owners that you won't need to hear back from them by the end of the January. And that being the case, if you're fairly well assured that there aren't going to be any changes to the owners, you might as well go ahead and just do all of them at one time. So when you print the 1099s, create the file, send the file to the IRS, and you're done. Then you don't have to come back in a couple more times to comply with the end of February, the end of March. You've done everything as of the end of January. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, call the support line, and thank you for attending.